911, what's your emergency?
Say the line, Bart.
No, this is Josh. I think we got it.
I think we got it as well.
Welcome back to the First Podcast, everybody. So, guys, I'm not going to lie to you. I was so bored by this one.
Just jumping right into it.
This one sucked.
I'm
sorry.
I thought this episode was marginally better than the last couple episodes. I don't think I disliked it actively as much as you did anyway, but yes, it was boring. I couldn't stop opening Twitter while watching this episode, you guys. And it's not the most bored I've ever been while watching an episode, though, because I admit I have this browser extension where you can like control the playback speed of any video on any website, since like
this is like the third time you've owned up to this, Jane. I think you're fine and everyone accepts this about you.
I just want to be honest about it because I know that I typically don't consider it, a good thing to do to watch things sped up. I don't think that shows a lot of integrity, but it's not like I'm not like watching like a David Lynch movie. I think it was him who said in one of his like little vlogs he used to do, he's like, you can't watch a movie on your fucking phone. No, I wouldn't do this for like cinema, but it's like I said in the last episode, there are some of these season 6 episodes where I'm like, can we even deign to call this cinema?
No. Especially not this one.
I don't think we have to, at the very least.
I feel like coming in this hot on my end, like, I appreciate you being the counterbalance here, because I feel like coming in this hot on my end is going to be seen as like, maybe like uncouth on my part. It might feel like punching down, or maybe just people will be put off because I feel like people don't think about this season very much.
Guy who is a server in New York punching down on 911, the big network TV show on Fox.
Because let me tell you why. Because
like, I don't say it to
when
insult
you watch
you. I say it to say like we are punching up.
No,
I think
like how like sometimes like rich people have dogs and yet those dogs still die. Like, this feels like the ailing dog of like a rich man who's like on his last leg. He's 16. He has bone cancer. He's rotting from the inside out, and he can't even lift his head enough to look at Odysseus when he comes home to Ithaca. Like, it feels like that. It feels like I'm looking at this show, like watching it die every episode, and it's like there's no joy in like just kicking it a little bit. But at the same time, like, I am, being, strapped to the couch by like, belts and chains, and being forced to like watch it with my eyes pried open with forceps. And I'm not entertained. Like, if you spend enough time watching the dying dog, I feel like your sympathy is going to run out at a certain point, and you're just going to get angry.
Well, I don't know if this metaphor tracks, because I can't really conceive of a situation where the rich guy would be like, here, you have to watch the dying dog as it dies, and you also have to review it and like it. I don't.
That's because Tim Minear doesn't have dogs, probably.
I don't know what Tim Minear has or doesn't have. Other than a torture chamber in his basement that he kidnapped me inside of that one time.
Right. Happy
Follow
Easter,
our Twitter
everybody.
for more. Yeah, today we're talking about season 6, episode 9. Okay, notable thing, this is episode 69. It's not like episode 69 numerically, but like numerologically, we could say that it's episode 69. Nice.
Is that the same thing? I'm not sure that it's not.
No, because numerically and numerologically are totally different. Numerology is like some weird, come to think of it, I don't actually know really what the parameters of numerology are. I can just already sense that we're going to want to like ramble all over the place because we don't want to talk about this boring episode. So we're talking about episode 6-9, Red Flag, directed by Brenna Malloy, written by Nicole Barraza-Keem, who we have had some ups and downs with. She is the 13 Reasons Why story editor or whatever, who did the Henren episode that we thought was bad. So, you know, you can't win them all, or perhaps any of them. But
it seems
she did
like
a couple
any
episodes.
of them. It seems like she's kind of for however many.
She did a couple in season 5 that I think we were fine with. I think she did that FOMO episode. I don't really remember
the bar
what happened.
really is in hell, isn't it? Wow.
Okay, yeah, FOMO.
Yeah.
A couple for this season, including the finale of this season, which is pretty bad. And she wrote There Goes the Groom, the season 7 episode where Chimney... Oh, I don't like that episode. The Madney wedding
that
episode where Chimney
sucked.
wanders
oh my
the
God, are you
with
kidding me?
encephalitis the whole episode. Spoilers.
God, we have to talk about that episode, don't we, eventually?
You know what's worse?
That's going to be another slog.
Next week or the week after, because Ryan wants to take a week off because he's going to visit his grandma, we will have to talk about the lightning episode.
That's next episode?
I think it's the 10th episode. Luckily, I think most of it will not be about getting struck by lightning. I think he gets struck by lightning like at the end. And so, the sequence of him getting struck by lightning is fine. It's kind of fun and dramatic, but it's more the aftermath episode. So I'm not too worried about next episode, but I will just, you know, that will disappoint me because it means that then the next episode will be the Buck Coma Dream episode.
Yeah. The Meredith Grey is drowning and her body is lacking oxygen, but, you know, she's still going to survive and be fine anyways episode.
The two. Don't even try to say
I didn't like that episode either. I didn't like that episode either. I'm sorry.
That's a part of history, at least.
Iconic and good are different. Iconic and good are different.
River.
Okay? I don't know what else to say. I mean, like, We Are Charlie Kirk is iconic, but it's an AI song.
The point is, we're not, like, mad when we watch the Meredith is drowning and talking to dead people episode of Grey's Anatomy.
No, I was just bored out of my gourd.
You.
I also need to make it clear to the audience that, like, Jane and I had a similar reckoning in that, like, we both have the day off today. And we both, like, are, you know, it's towards the end of the day. It's probably fine. Neither of us care about this episode. So we are drinking and we're not going to stop.
Well, we are going to stop eventually. Listen, it's 5:00 somewhere, and somewhere is right here. It's 5:11 where I am. So this is all above board.
Wow. Yeah, that's your little happy hour margarita. You got that like half off. Can you hear how bored we are, guys? We spent like a half hour before this episode just like riffing
about
on the
anything
phone.
But 911. Okay. But let's get down to business. It's okay. I will credit to this episode. We open with an unusual type of opening. We get this kind of interesting, moody narration from Bobby as he wakes up in the night and gets up. He can't sleep. Now,
he's trying to recapture the magic of Abby in the pilot.
It's true.
What's your emergency?
But here's my analysis on this. I did not really know about the phenomenon of the Santa Ana winds before watching this episode of 911. For context, in this scene, Bobby is describing the Santa Ana winds and like the phenomenon of people describing like emotional consequences, physical consequences of the winds, and how they have this like place in sort of the folklore of California. I didn't really know anything about that until watching 911 because is it bad to say I'm kind of disinterested in the culture of Los Angeles?
No, I say it every episode.
But having done a little research on it, this is not only a big phenomenon in Los Angeles, but it specifically has made it into a lot of art set in LA, including it seems that it's something of a trope in like sort of noir set in LA. So like there's a Philip Marlowe novel that discusses the Santa Ana winds. And so I think what they're doing here is trying to do an intentional homage to like a film noir type narration with Bobby here. And I think that's cool. I commend them for doing that. I think that's stylish. It's moody. It's cool. Is the rest of the episode like in that style? No. But I commend them for this one thing.
We can commend them for trying. But trying and succeeding are two different things. And I feel like succeeding requires commitment, and this episode
Yeah.
does not have that in any
Yeah.
regard, really. So yeah, like Bobby, like he's monologue. Athena's asleep in bed. He's like doing that thing of like, I'm awake, but my wife is asleep, and I'm gonna stare out the window. And he's monologuing in voiceover, about how, there's all these misconceptions about LA, that it has no seasons, that it's just a pleasant 72 degrees year round. But that's actually San Diego. What real Angelinos know.
That part was a thing where I'm like, okay, I'm not from California. I don't know what you're talking about, and I don't really care.
I will say I have been to San Diego, and it was a pleasant 72 degrees, so I can co-sign that, I suppose. But then he's like, real Angelinos know that, that a rainy winter gives way to a short spring before the brutal summer Santa Ana winds roll in over the hills.
I'm just like, whatever. Like, try living through any of these like masturbatory LA people. Try surviving one winter in Minnesota and then get back to me about, the quirkiness of your weather in LA. I know that this is like not fair of me to even
would not survive in New York. These fucking people would not survive in New York, and let me tell you why. Because we have brutal winters and brutal summers. Our summers are so humid because our city is built on a swamp, and the winters are so cold and so windy because of the goddamn buildings creating wind tunnels everywhere you go.
I mean, I think we're just doing the thing that masturbatory LA people are doing, which is just everybody thinks their region is like the coolest, toughest one to live in. But I guess, like, especially as a Midwesterner,
they don't know about us cinnamon girls. They don't know about us cinnamon girls.
Yeah. What's the here in Wigglesburg?
Yeah. Like you from New York, I'm from Buttersburg, bitch. Like, we get down.
No, but I do think, especially as a Midwesterner, here's the one thing I'll say is unique to Midwesterners is, like, we don't really get romanticized the way these, like, big coastal cities do, right? Like, we don't have like a bunch of Joan Didion essays about how cool our weather is. We have like the Coen brothers, and that's about it. And so and even that, it's like just if anything, a meditation on like the sort of misery of living here. But because of that, it makes me feel like sometimes this sort of jerking off about like the uniqueness of a coastal city, I'm like try living somewhere normal, like it's that's all well and good that you
in a flyover state, right?
Yeah, or just it makes me feel I just sort of roll my eyes at this like self-aggrandizing stuff about like LA and New York, and you don't know what it's like here, like this is our culture is so unique. It's like, yeah, I'm sure, but like I live in a normal place, so this just comes off kind of pretentious to me.
Yeah, I feel like I've never really lived in a normal place because, like, New York is New York. And then, like, before that, like in Washington, it's so secluded from, like, the rest of the country. I guess our greatest aesthetic contribution to culture has been Twilight.
I was going to say,
and I feel
Grey's
like
Anatomy.
Twilight does really capture it. Grey's Anatomy, it does a good job of, like, Seattle, like, city life, I suppose. But, like, Twilight really captures basically the essence of, like, growing up surrounded by trees under like a near constant like veil of clouds, and it's nice, it's moody, you get really into Evanescence, but I could imagine living in a less romanticized place where, like, there's no sparkly vampires, there's no Joan Didion essays, there's no Woody Allen movies about your area. I guess you technically have like the birthplace of Prince.
Well, no, but that's the thing is like it's more annoying to hear this type of romanticized stuff about LA because there is so much media about that it's like, I fucking get it. I get it. LA is so cool and so different, and you guys have such weird weather phenomena. Like, that's great for you. You already have everything. You already have Hollywood. You already have all the famous people. Like, get over yourself. I don't care about the fucking wind. That said, I do think it sounds like the wind is like a cool, like, literary motif. So good for you. Joan Didion is cool. But that's the other thing I'd say about this opening is it does feel like this really out of place tone shift for the show, like how kind of grave it gets. Because at the end, Bobby quotes Joan Didion. He quotes one of the Joan Didion essays that reference the Santa Ana winds. And it's like, I just don't really buy that Bobby is out here like reading let alone quoting Joan Didion.
While he is, lest we forget, constructing a grave plot or a ceremonial grave plot in the middle of like a burnt patch of nothing.
Yes,
he is nothing.
That is the main takeaway. Is by the end of this sequence, we see that he is like hammering a simple wooden cross of a gravestone into the ground. Which again, I do like this. I think this is a great start to the episode because you're like, what on earth? Like, there's never been a 911 episode like this. This feels like it would be in one of our season 10s that we just plotted out on the Patreon. And so I was very into that.
The plot of nothing is where Eddie and Buck drove their car off of the Grand Canyon.
So I was very into that, and also the fact that the rest of the episode like doesn't deliver on being anything like this is like whatever. And like I'm saying, it's very out of place. Like, here is a quote from the end of this scene. Bobby's narration says, "Every gust adding to the eerie, pervasive sense that a reckoning may be upon us." And it's like, what, bro, Bobby Nash would not talk, like, he would not fucking say that.
And indeed he wouldn't. No, it's crazy. It is like this might sound mean, and it also might sound like hyper specific to like the kind of media that I consume, but it sounds like, you know, when like someone is writing a fanfic of a thing that is like not classy in any way, and they're trying to, I guess, flex their education in a sense by being like, yeah, I've read books too. Let me quote like this poem by Ocean Vuong out of the mouth of like Dean Winchester.
Dean Winchester, yeah.
And it's like, bro, he would not fucking say that. I'm sorry.
So in a way, we have to respect like the fan fiction-itis of this sequence. Shout out to Bobby who reads Joan Didion. I would love to imagine that he does, but I really don't think he does.
He probably doesn't. I mean, if anything, he probably reads like, you know, Camille Paglia or something like that.
Well,
if
I think he
dives
probably
into feminist
reads
literature at all.
like who are all the like, you know, man mystery novelists who have like 40 books published?
Oh, like Jack Ryan or something, like military action or something. No, that's what Eddie reads.
Or just like a Dean Koontz or something, you know?
Yeah. No, who was that fucking from Joe Johnstone?
I don't think it's quite as bad as Joe Johnstone, but I think he's reading Dean Koontz for sure. And I don't even say this with like any disdain. I've never read a Dean Koontz book, but I'm just imagining like, you know, I think Bobby loves airport books. So we get our title card, and then we get a little card saying it's 3 days earlier, because I guess you're supposed to wonder, who could Bobby possibly be making this grave for? I wonder if, like, at the time this was airing, people were like, seriously thought that it was like a main character or something.
That would imply that at the time it was airing, anyone was watching. I don't think
well,
did anyone watch season 6 live as it was airing?
I think the Buddy fandom people probably still were.
Buddy shippers were watching as it was airing, and guys, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. I'm so sorry I wasn't your mother. Because like this is the least Buddylicious season in all of the season. You know,
this is seriously,
in all of the season
it's like
to
being
exist.
In the desert.
It is. Like at least in season 1, like Buddy hadn't happened yet because Eddie didn't exist yet. You know, so like there was no room for Buddy canon. But like once Eddie was introduced, like it's just been like a Buddy canon nonstop. And season 6, it's like a drought, you know, and you're grasping for any like drop of water you can find off of like a rusty, like, you know, sheet of like roof or something like that. I don't know. But yes, so 3 days earlier, Maddie's at dispatch and Josh is showing up because he is covering for Jamal, who is having apparently an emergency root canal. And Maddie and Linda, they're kind of like undisturbed by this. I just know
Jamal doesn't floss.
Right. No, literally. Him and I both. And Josh, he is not happy to be here because on the way here, he's been encountering debris from the Santa Ana winds, a downed tree here, some power lines downed there. And it's hashtag creepy AF. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, he never works on the full moon, and now he's getting the crazies from the Santa Ana winds. Maybe this will come back. I don't know. But Maddie and Linda are both looking at him like, man, you should have seen the calls we've been taking all day. There was a parrot stabbing. And you're like, what?
Yeah, he's naturally, Josh is like, how did the parrot stab someone? And they're like, well, actually somebody got stabbed with a parrot. It was a parrot statue, which that's much
Cowards.
less interesting to me. Yeah.
Cowards.
Like, why not at least have somebody pick up a live parrot and stab somebody with it? But there is a weird thing in this scene where, as Josh is describing his troubles, Linda and Maddie are kind of looking at each other like in this self-satisfied way, like they know something. So surely that will come back later.
I'm glad that you caught that, because my first time watching this scene, I did not. And it wasn't until the end of this episode where I was like, oh, wait, I guess they were sharing looks.
It's because I've seen this whole show like 3 or 4 times through. Elsewhere, there is a family home where that guy, first of all, that guy, the TV is on, and that guy who is a reporter in real life and on 911 is reporting the news, and I think he's saying something like, the wind is sure is strong out there because it's the Santa Ana winds. And this dog is barking. This guy, I don't know. You're right.
So,
that these calls
so
are kind of, this one, okay, it's a means to an end. It's a means to an end. It's a means to an end. We have a daughter and a mom, and the dad's gonna come home, and the dog is barking because there are fireworks going off.
Look at the fireworks.
Yes. And the dad gets home, and the freaked out dog runs out the door and runs away.
Yeah.
And the daughter is like, oh no, my dog who I love. And the dad's like, okay, I just got back from a back-breaking day of work, but I guess I'll go directly out and get the dog again. And I only say that because they had mentioned, like, oh, dad's working late because, like, I think he's like with an electric company or something, and it's like they have to deal with more downed power lines during the Santa Ana wind. So I was just feeling kind of bad that he had presumably just gotten home from an even worse day of work than usual, and then also he has to go out and find the dog because his daughter's going to be upset if he doesn't. So they go out looking for the dog. They can't find the stupid dog. The dog's too freaked out by the fireworks. They also were like, who's setting off fireworks at 8 p.m. on a weekday or whatever?
And so, like, the girl, obviously she's upset that her beloved dog is missing still. And so he's like, well, listen, the fireworks have stopped. So why don't you get ready for bed and I'll go find the dog myself, right? And as they're having this conversation, they're putting this plan together. He has the flashlight, etc. The dog returns, and it has a gift for the family.
It has a sweet little gift.
In the dog's mouth, it is holding a severed hand.
I liked this. I thought this was fun. The dog coming back with a severed hand.
It was fun. I mean, it's fun that it's like obviously like a prop severed hand too, like what you'd see in Jaws.
Spirit Halloween prop severed hand.
And that's special to me because I love how low budget the show is getting. It's like watching a school play. And so they call 911 because obviously, and Maddie takes the call and she's like, 911, what's the emergency? And they're like, the dog, it killed a man and took his hand. No, they didn't say that.
The dog brought us a hand. You know, Maddie's like, are you sure it's a real hand? And they're like, well, it looks all bloody and gross.
They could have said the dog's giving us a hand, and that would have been a pun.
And it would have been a funny moment if Maddie's like, what do you mean? Your dog's helping you? No, he's literally giving us a hand. Maddie is like...
second where Maddie thinks the family dog is Air Bud.
Why are you calling 911 about this? Get on the phone with the local basketball league. No, Maddie is like, why don't you pick up the hand so that you can tell me if it's still warm? Because that will tell us if it was recently severed and if we could maybe find the person and get them their hand back in time. The mom doesn't want to do it, and the daughter's like, oh, Mom, you're so squeamish. I can't believe you don't want to pick up this nasty severed hand. So she picks it up, and like, she looks like she's maybe like 14. She's like in that perfect age where you'll find like kind of gross stuff cool. So she picks it up and she's like, oh, it's definitely still warm. And Maddie's like, okay, well, I guess we'll just call the fire department. Like, don't put it directly on ice, but put it kind of indirectly on ice, and we'll get the fire department out there.
I want to know. I want to do a character study on you. Were you this kind of kid?
Oh, I loved gross out stuff. I loved like when you would go to the bookstore and go to the like kids section and they would have those books that would be like, grossology or like the
Mm.
history of boogers,
Mm-hmm.
I
No,
liked
I was
like
the same. I was a little
slime
freak.
and,
Mm-hmm.
little sticky stuff and whatever.
Yeah, I would watch like the Kids' Choice Awards just to see them get slimed. It was really funny to me, and I watched live as Katy Perry. They attempted murder on her. Um,
That video is so crazy. The 118 races to the rescue of the severed
mhm.
hand. And they're like, how are we gonna find, they hear that there were fireworks going off and that they came from like a general direction of the neighborhood. So they don't know exactly where to look. So naturally, they're like, I
Mhm.
guess we just have to go door to door asking people if they're missing a hand. And so we get a little montage set to that I Can Make Your Hands Clap song, which is, of course, one of the many examples in season 6 of the show just like thinking we're stupid with the
Yeah.
music choices.
There are so many little things in this episode that are so half-assed that it almost dwarfs the big things in this episode that are also half-assed. And this is one of them. And it's been a running theme throughout this season.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, I have to know, like, because we've all seen that clip of Kenny Shoy at the convention, like blasted, like lambasting the show and like the writing process and whatever. I
Uh-huh.
have to wonder, like, was this around the time when everyone stopped caring? Like, it had to have been, right? It had to have been.
Well, so we actually got an interesting theory in, I think, our YouTube comments this past week, where when we were talking about the previous episode that was just so nothing, somebody suggested that maybe this was around the time all of the writers found out the show was getting canceled. This person had said like maybe at this point in the writing process for the season, like because that previous episode had kind of felt like a bunch of people kind of throwing their hands up and being like, well, I guess nothing
Right.
matters anymore, which
Yeah.
if I were them, I would have taken that opportunity to get like way crazier with it as opposed to
Mhm.
way boringer with it. But I also understand just like phoning it in. So maybe
Yeah.
this is the season where all the writers decided to quiet quit because they knew they were getting laid off anyway.
I mean, that's smart, and that does hold water, I guess, from
And I
like a
support that
timeline
for them.
perspective. I support that, but I don't support it for me having to
No.
watch it and talk about it in depth. The only thing of note in this sequence of people opening the door and showing people their hands
Yeah.
is that you get a moment of both Buck and Eddie walking away from like houses, and they
Uh-huh.
share a look that is reminiscent to me of that scene in the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man film where Peter and MJ have that scene in their backyards. Remember that when they
Yeah.
like Peter's taking out the trash and MJ's had that fight with her dad? Yeah.
I love the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, you guys.
Aren't they the best movies ever, bro? Even the third one.
Even the
That movie
third
is camp.
one.
I'm sorry.
Even and especially, some might say.
Hello.
I also just looked up the word hand in Apple Music to see like what other songs have hand in them because I was kind of like, what other song could they have used? And it's a
my
lot
God.
of songs I don't really know. But here's a good idea: Second Hand News by
Yeah.
by Fleetwood Mac.
That'd be good. That'd be good.
It's a less direct reference to a hand, and so that's kind of a little more tasteful. Or Hand in My Pocket by Alanis Morissette.
Hello. That'd be good. That'd be good. I have a very inappropriate suggestion. So you guys who are around for this, so after the Pulse nightclub shooting,
Okay.
there was a charity single released that, featured a lot of different artists, Britney Spears, Demi Lovato, Imagine Dragons, Troye Sivan, Alex Newell. They all came together to create a charity single called Hands. And like,
Wrap it up, Ryan. This isn't good.
What if, just throwing it
the
out
show
there,
would have been so canceled. Can you even imagine? Like some
The
poor
show was
editor.
already canceled.
Well,
The show is already canceled.
I mean, they would have been socially and culturally canceled. I'm now imagining though, like some poor overworked editor just like Googling the word hand, looking up the word hand in their music library and being like, oh, like here's one, and like not knowing, and then getting like completely
fucking
crucified
Pulse
online.
song.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
oh.
apparently there's also a Pink song called You plus Your Hand. I've never heard this
Oh,
song,
I
but that could
haven't
be a
either. That
fun
must be
one.
one from one of her later albums.
There's a song
Uh,
by Lady Gaga called Hold My Hand from the Top Gun Maverick soundtrack.
so that came out 2 years ago, so that wouldn't
So
fit in
that
the
wouldn't have
timeline.
worked. Oh well.
But
We'll
that
just time
song did win
travel.
her the Sports Emmy, so that will make her eligible for the EGOT when she
The
gets her Tony
Sports
Award.
Emmy?
Yeah, she performed it at the
What is a
where did she
sports
perform
Emmy?
it? It's like an Emmy but for sports. And she performed it at some sporting event. I think
Isn't
it
that
was
like the ESPYs? Don't they already have that? Why do they
it was
need
like an
Emmys?
NFL game. Well, they have like the Primetime Emmy Awards, the Daytime Emmy Awards, the Creative Arts Emmy Awards, the Sports Emmy Awards, and the Sports Emmys are for like, you know, the NFL games, like
I just
you're
don't think
acknowledging
sports
like
should.
people who make
I don't think
that.
they need Emmys. Daytime Emmys
Okay.
can stay, and so can the
Okay,
creative arts
Jane.
ones. But
Not too much, because my roommate works for the Yes Network, and guess what he has? A sports Emmy. He's home. I could go into his room and get his Emmy and hold it as we record this episode.
you know what I
He
have to
has
say
a
to
sports
that?
Emmy.
You know what I have to say to that? Fuck your roommate
Hmm?
and his fucking sports Emmy.
Harry, no. Harry, no. No. Oh, God. We really don't want to talk about this episode, do we?
So the point is, Hands Clap is a stupid ass song for this. What? It's also like, even conceptually, it's like more insulting that they clearly just picked a song because it had the word hand in it. Because it's like,
Yeah.
what do you mean you can make my hands clap? No, you literally can't, because if I'm the guy in this situation, my hand just got blown off. How am I
Right.
supposed to clap them?
And speaking of the guy in the situations, there's this kid who's like, "Can I help?" And they're like, "No." And he's like, "Okay." Then he grabs the cooler that has the hand in it and he books
Yes.
it. And Buck's like, "You're it." And Eddie's like, "Ah, geez." And Eddie
Yeah,
chases
yeah.
him down.
That is a
And
good
they
buddy
get
moment, relatively, for season 6, because
That is
Buck
a
is
buddy
like,
moment. Yeah.
Buck is like, not it, and then Eddie, for some reason, which we can only infer that Eddie is like, ugh, my beautiful diva wife doesn't want to do it. I guess I have to do it.
And so he does do it. And he chases the kid down. And it turns out he was grabbing the hand for his buddy who it belongs to. But he also has a finger that's blown off. And so it's like another victim of a deadly fireworks attack. And it was a fireworks thing. And so they find the guy in the car and they do the medical thing on him where they save his arm and his hand. And they find a thumb in his pocket. And it's like, oh, this is a thumb. There's a third victim. I guess we'll circle back to this. And they don't. But it turns out
Yeah,
they were
wait.
having a fireworks fight. They were having a fireworks fight. The kind of spiritually similar to the thing that started the Code Black episode in season 2 of Grey's. Hello.
I guess,
Hello?
but we've already called back to that with season 2, episode 1 of 911, where the guy has the bazooka shell in his body, just like in the Code Black episode of Grey's Anatomy.
Which is a much more direct parallel. Yeah.
Yes.
But, you know.
There were
I'm
a couple moments
grasping
of
at
like
straws.
reheated 911 nachos in this episode, like where they did something where I was like, oh, you already did that. Like, I'm not really moved by this because you already did that. But anyway, whatever. The guys like blew their hands off with fireworks, and the guy
And there's,
didn't
like, a
want to tell
third
his
guy
mom.
That like
The guy
we
didn't want
don't
to tell
find
his
out
mom because
about.
like his mom is on the neighborhood council, and she's specifically trying to get disruptive fireworks to stop. The guy looked like a grown man, but I guess he's like still too afraid for his mom to find out, to the extent that he
probably
didn't call
lives with his
911 in
mom.
this situation. Maybe.
He probably lives with his mom, and like his mom is like one of those parents who like is not afraid to like she'll be a good mom, but then she's not afraid to like beat your ass, you know? She's like that kind of mom if you're stupid.
Maybe.
And so he's like, well, I did something stupid and my finger got blown off, and so did my buddy's hand and my other unseen buddy's thumb, who we'll never find out about. So she's gonna beat all of our asses, and I'm scared. And we never circle back to this, so it's fine and we can move on. So Denny is having a birthday party at home, but it's only him and his mom because he has no friends.
Well,
and so he's opening all these
Sometimes,
presents.
like, your parents get you a couple things in the morning and then maybe your real party is later in the day. But yeah, now that you mention that, it is like, okay, why is he just alone at home with his mom? Poor Denny.
Where are his friends?
Where
he doesn't
are his
have
friends?
any.
Denny is opening presents. He got some cool stuff. He got some new headphones. He got a cool, like, big robotics kit. I will say, no offense to this child actor, who I think is doing a good job, and also, like, it's not his fault that he was directed a certain way, but I feel like they've written and directed Denny in such a way where, like, you just know how, like, a lot of TV shows and movies have kids acting in this really kind of like the way adults wish kids would act, but not really the way they do. Like, Denny is just so happy and smiley and wholesome and like, wow, thanks, Mom. Thanks, Mama. This is so cool. Can I go work on it right now? It's like, I don't doubt that he would be like a sweet kid who's like excited and grateful for this stuff, but it just feels a little too like, you know, a little too like, I wrote the perfect child in my screenplay.
Oh, go on, kids. Open your presents. Wow, a computer and a car. Thanks, Mom and Dad.
This is epic. Yeah, so Denny's excited about his prezzies, and he's like, can I go play with it today? And they're like, it's your birthday, King. You can do whatever you want today. And he says,
they're kind of like surprised by like how like asking for permission he is, which is so funny. It's like, well, it is your birthday. Like, you can do whatever. And so Denny, like, he sees the opportunity and he's like, okay, so tell me about Eva. And they're like, excuse me?
Yeah, he's like, really? We can do anything? Like, okay, can you tell me about my birth mom? And yeah, obviously Hen and Karen are taken aback, but they try to field this in a healthy way. They're like, well, like, yeah, like, she doesn't live nearby because that's what Denny asked. They're like, she used to, and then she moved away. So, like, you know, we can't really go visit her that easily. But they're like,
up in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
Remember that she moved to Portland, Oregon to like be in the queer coffee house?
That's true. She probably opened like a I don't know. I'm seeing Eva opening like a dog, like a cat cafe, but dogs. And it's like, you know, it's like run by like sober people, and it's like one of those types of businesses.
Damn lesbians and their goddamn dogs.
You know what I mean? Like Portland sober lesbians plus dogs plus artisanal coffee. I'm seeing the vision, and I think that's what Eva would do.
No, you ate that up. I'm not gonna lie to you. You actually
it's run by
clocked their asses.
specifically sober, like you know, ex-con type people, and it's like, you know, all the proceeds go to cool charities and stuff. And the coffee's like $9 for like an 8-ounce coffee, but you pay it anyway because you're like, it's for a good cause.
And you tip 20% for the barista. You tip 20%
because when they turn around the iPad to you. But anyway, Denny wants to know about Eva. They mentioned that they might have some pictures up in the attic. But you can tell it's an interesting interaction because it's not that they have a bad reaction to it, but
no, it's not.
Okay, I'm just trying to give a little bit of benefit of the doubt. If this were real life, it's a rather interesting interaction because you can tell that they didn't give a bad response, but you can also kind of tell in how they react that they are a little perturbed by this. And we see later, like, Denny does pick up on that. But for the moment, he's like, okay, that's all I wanted to know. And they're like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, whatever. Let's go, like, play with my new toys or whatever. And
I'm Denny, the perfect child written by adults, and I'm going to be neither seen nor heard. Yeah. You can always tell a Milford man. I did make a note in this scene, and I texted you this note that like there's a jarring like nigh manipulative like tonal shift in this scene where they start playing this like dramatic music over this, like it's like soft dramatic music over this scene after Denny asks about Eva, and it's basically telling the audience how to feel about what's happening on screen because it doesn't trust any like sort of intelligence on our part. And I was saying to you, Jane, I feel like all or most of like the interpersonal character drama scenes on the show could be improved if they just cut out the horrible score. Because the
Yeah.
score is genuinely horrible procedural
No, the score
TV
is horrible.
score.
I've never looked into like who does the music for this show, but like they should retire low key.
They should retire.
Or at the very least, perhaps, let's be woke about it, the network should pay them enough and give them enough time off that they are able to put their full attention into their work, because the score of this show feels like a real afterthought.
100%. And it feels like they just sourced it from like somewhere else on the internet.
Yeah.
I would be genuinely surprised if they had like a score guy on retainer to like do stuff for the episode.
I mean, I'm sure they
feel
have like a main composer and probably some related like music supervisor type roles, but it seems like in terms of score, they only have a few like recurring themes that they go back to, and it doesn't feel like they ever like have anyone come in and compose or record like new takes on those themes or like extrapolate on them at all. They just kind of play the same ones over and over again. They have, you know, there's the theme music that occasionally comes in, and then they have this emotional one that kind of goes like
yeah.
which is funny because that's also very similar to a really popular like musical theme from New Doctor Who. I think it's Rose's theme sounds pretty similar to that. So I always hear that and I'm kind of like, wow. And it's not even original.
Well, it struck me because I was hashtag just watching Glee. And say what you want about like the show or whatever, but like they do put in the effort to like for certain characters or relationships or whatever, especially in the early seasons, like create new like leitmotifs for like certain characters, certain relationships when they come up. Like
well, Glee,
I was watching
naturally, that was a show that actually cared about music.
but I was watching like the episode where like Sam and Mercedes sing Summer Nights. And then when they're having like for the rest of the season, when they're having like relationship drama about like between them, you get this like Summer Nights motif about it, and it becomes like sort of the theme of their relationship. That's interesting, right? It's like taking that, but it's like it's done tastefully in kind of like a subtle way in the background that like makes you think about Sam Sadie's. So yeah, like that's something that the show is missing. And we just get this shitty like network TV like score that like has no identity to it and no relation to any of the specific characters. It's so lazy. I hate it.
Okay, the music
I hate
was
this show.
The two composers credited for the whole show. One of them is named Mac Quayle, and the other is named Todd Haberman. Who knows? Todd Haberman has seemingly done a lot of music for like Lifetime movies. And Mac Quayle did music for like Mr. Robot, Leave the World Behind, American Horror Story, The Last of Us.
So it's like who was available, kind of.
Or just like it seems like I feel like this Matt Quayle guy, like I feel like Mr. Robot had good music. Haven't watched it in like 10 years, but it probably had good music. It's an acclaimed show.
American Horror Story has amazing music, you know.
Yes,
The Last
and he's
of Us
done
has
a lot of
amazing
music for a lot of Ryan Murphy projects, it looks like.
Right,
Todd
so he's
Haberman,
like the Ryan Murphy
I do
guy.
not want to get down on a guy who is in the Lifetime business, because I think those people are commendably, their work ethic is commendable. But it makes you wonder.
It's not like artistry, it's like a grind. So I get it. I get it in that regard. It's just another job and you have to come up with something because you're being asked to do this something for whatever. And you're this guy who's kind of like overworked. No, I get it. Like, and that comes through in the finished product. I'm just saying.
It does. So that's what I'm saying. I'm like, give Todd better hours. I guess just my extremely speculative extrapolation is that seeing those two composers and their histories, it kind of makes me think that the dynamic was the guy who's done music for a lot of Ryan Murphy projects, including a lot more acclaimed shows. Maybe he did some initial composing, and then maybe the Lifetime guy like was more the employed one who had to do a lot of the busy work. I don't know for sure. That is my opinion, speculation. And I feel like justice for Todd or whatever. I think he deserves a better career.
Well, it feels like that follows the general trajectory of like the creative aspect of the show as well, because like if you look at like the first season of the show, Ryan Murphy and Brad Falchuk, they wrote a couple episodes, they directed a couple episodes, but then they just like
They
shoved
handed it
all the
off
rest
to some
to
less
like
famous
the
people to do the work. Yeah.
after them. Exactly. So it's like, I feel like Max, is his name Max, is the first guy?
Mac, I believe.
Yeah, like you said, Mac, he probably did the initial work, like you said, and then, handed it all off to Todd afterwards. But
we
his
don't know
name
that
still
this
comes
is
up
true.
because.
But also that would kind of
we're just
explain
speculating.
why they just repeat the same, like, music, score
Yeah.
songs over and over again.
Even Todd probably hasn't worked on the show in 10 years or whatever. So
I mean, it said they were both credited like from 2018 to 2026. So
if they're both still totally active on it, I'm left to ask what they're working on. Right?
Yeah, there must be a lot of music in it that we don't like pick up on. Or I guess, to be fair, they're credited as composers on every single episode, but that could just mean, like, how
the music they've already made is still repeating to be used.
Episode. Yeah. Maybe they literally just did some work for the show when it was just starting out, and then they just left, and that's why the music is reused all the time, is they just haven't had any new music composed for the show since like the first episode. Anyway, again, we have no.
So they rely on the
proof of
hands
that.
clap song for the fucking montages.
I mean, that would also explain why there are so many needle drops. We have no proof of this. We are only making allegations, but that is our allegation, that they hired these two poor composers to do music for like the very first season of the show, and then they never had anyone compose any more music for the show.
Look at us making allegations. But anyways, so
whatever.
Hen
Denny
is spooked by the Eva talk.
Yeah,
okay?
Denny is
She's
fine and he
spooked by the
runs
Eva
off,
talk.
but Hen is spooked. She's like, I wasn't expecting that, and like, is this going to be a bigger thing? So that's all you need to know.
Right. And then we get this very bewildering scene where Bobby is at home alone, like staring out the window in his noir way.
Yes.
And this random man who I'd completely forgotten about just shows up in his house like it's a dream sequence, like it's a vision he's having. But no, he is tangibly there in reality and just let himself in. There's no knock at the door. He just shows up and Bobby's like, hey, you're in my house. But he doesn't mention it.
Into the back rooms of Bobby's house.
Seriously. Yes. It's literally the back rooms. He just no-clipped in.
Well, it's not literally the back rooms.
But like this guy, okay, so Bobby's like happy to see him because this guy, Wendell, is his sponsor.
His sponsor?
I guess his sponsor
who
just
we've
dropped
never
in.
met before. Yeah, this pisses me off as well, because it's just like... So suddenly, you guys, by the way, this was the mid-season finale of season 6. Suddenly,
it was?
Yes, suddenly at the mid-season finale, presumably the writers were like, who had quiet quit at this point, were like, oh shit, we need to have like a cliffhanger. We need to have like a plot if we want people to come back and be excited for the second half of the season. So they decide to just now introduce like a dramatic overarching plot, and it's not very effective, and it involves astroturfing this guy, bringing in Wendell, and being like, doing that bad writing thing of like retroactive exposition, being like, oh yes, Wendell, my beloved AA sponsor whom I've always had, that has just conveniently existed off screen until now. It's even the
911 equivalent of like Matt in the Vampire Diaries going like, Dad, I know I tracked you down a couple months ago and I didn't tell you about any of this.
Yeah. And even like Athena gets home and Wendell, she reacts to Wendell in this way as if he's like this old friend of hers who she loves. And it's like, so you know Wendell too, and like you're this familiar with him, like who? I just think it's kind of sloppy. Like at least they could have if they could have established Wendell just like a couple episodes before this, and just had him kind of be around as Bobby's sponsor, and
instead of wasting all that time on Noah.
Yeah,
Noah.
Yeah, for real. They could have introduced him as Bobby's, or maybe if they wanted to justify why he hasn't been on screen until now, maybe they could have been like, oh, Bobby, your sponsor off screen, your sponsor who has existed off screen until this point is moving away, so you have to get this new sponsor, which is why we're being introduced to him, right? Like maybe he changes sponsors or something. I get that, like maybe once a person has been sober for several years in AA, I'm sure it could stand to reason that they don't see their sponsor as much anymore. But I don't know. I feel like, for one thing, you hear about those relationships being pretty, like, I feel like people do often keep up with their sponsors quite a bit. And just you know, irregardless, it's like, why would we have never met him before? Obviously, I know the actual answer, which is they only decided to come up with this character right now. But like, it just feels very sloppy and lazy.
And so, yeah, they're like, oh, etc. Hi, I've been sober for 5 years. Well, kind of 4, but you know, we don't count that one. But
That
whatever,
one time.
bro. And you know, I'm going to New Mexico, Wendell says, to visit my son's family, etc. We don't know. We don't care. And Athena comes home and she's like, hey, Wendell, person that we've met. And he leaves.
Person who I know very well. So the point of this scene is that Wendell actually seems a little off. He's saying he's going to visit his son's family, and he expresses to Bobby, like, I'm tired, I need a break. And so by the end of the interaction, he's just got like this kind of wistful energy throughout the scene. And by the end of the interaction, once he leaves,
feels like a prank. No, it feels like a prank because, like, how are we supposed to know as audience members that
this
he's
isn't
acting
Wendell's
off?
baseline? Yeah. Right? No, you're so right, actually. That is crazy that we see this scene of a guy we've never met before acting like seemingly pretty normal, and then he leaves and Athena's like, is everything okay? And Bobby says, no, I don't think it is. And it's great that they had to write that in because, yeah, how are we to know that this is atypical for Wendell? Who is Wendell? I don't know Wendell.
And so he blames it on the Santa Ana winds because that's the theme of the episode, I guess. And this is a problem that I'll circle back to later, but like, I just want to point out that like, we've heard a lot of talk about the Santa Ana winds and it won't stop. Okay, so we go from Bobby being suspicious of his mysterious sponsor who's just showed up and left.
I will say, I have to say, as I was just like scrubbing through that scene again, there's a moment where like as Wendell's leaving, Bobby says to him, are you sure you're all right? You don't really seem like yourself. Because again, the writers obviously like knew that we don't know this guy and we have no way of knowing that this isn't his baseline. So they have to clunkily write in all these things of like, no, I don't think he's okay. Wendell, you don't seem like yourself, like so that we will understand that this isn't how he normally is.
Exposition is a literary obligation that gets the audience invested in your story. So Josh, he returns to work because he was apparently calling out again because he hates being at his job.
Josh is holding 2 different coffee thermoses, by the way.
2 different coffee thermoses. Dr. Shen could never. Okay, Dr. Shen has nothing on this guy. Josh returns because Cedric is in St. Louis. Meet me in St. Louis, etc. Crank goes the trolley.
Cedric's in St. Louis. Yes, and Maddie comes up to Josh and she says, I just want to point this out because we talked about it so extensively in our last episode. She points at Josh's 2 coffee thermoses and she says, that is some maximum macchiato you got there, which one makes no sense because she can't see inside of his coffee thermos, so she has no idea what kind of coffee drink it is, and it's probably just drip coffee because like who brings a macchiato to work in a thermos, let alone 2 of them. But I guess it's just supposed to be like
splitting
a
macchiato between 2 Stanley Cup sized thermoses. Bro, you're going to get 2 sips out of each one.
Well, yeah. It's I guess just supposed to be like a snappier way of her to say, you're holding a lot of coffee right now, but it's just
She would not fucking say that.
She would not
fucking say that. Okay.
Let me workshop a better line right now. She could have been like, think you even just being like, oh, whoa, you think you got enough coffee there would have been like a more normal human line to say,
holy coffee, Batman, etc. Right.
Is that a lot of coffee? No, this is Josh. Eventually they'll start incorporating no, this is Josh onto the show itself. You guys, we just have to wait for our impact to take hold.
Right. And Josh, he explains the Cedric and St. Louis thing, and he's like, do you think in St. Louis, Missouri, where I guess Huck Finn is from or whatever, they have, winds that make people go crazy. And Maddie's like, I think they have tornadoes, bro. You don't know how good you have it. You're just not woke enough because people are dying in Missouri, in Kentucky, in Iowa. Didn't you watch
Oklahoma.
Twisters starring Glenn Powell?
Twister and Twisters both take place in Oklahoma, to be clear.
It's true. It's always fucking Oklahoma. But
one of
anyways,
my worst
Josh is like,
theatrical
whatever.
moments in the last couple years. I'm sorry, guys. I did not like Twisters. I love the original Twister, and I did not like Twisters.
I like Twisters so much. I liked it so much.
One of my least favorite parts of the movie Twisters is when Daisy Edgar Jones decides to go back home to her home in Oklahoma, and I swear to God, they play this song that's like this dumb, ugly country song that's like, you can't take the home out of Oklahoma. Those are the lyrics, and it's like blaring over this scene of her driving home, and I was like, literally,
I hate you.
What? Oh, because the audience might not understand that she's going to her home in Oklahoma. They don't have that shit in the original Twister because people used to trust that audiences had spent more than one day on Earth, But I guess now they're expecting the
I love Twisters. I thought it was so good.
But I guess nowadays they're expecting the viewer to watch Twisters, on HBO Max 3 months after it comes out, while scrolling on their phone and being on their computer doing their taxes.
And what about it, Jane?
And, you might not have a chance to look up at the screen, and so they need to tell you via song that the protagonist is going back home to Oklahoma and that you can't take the home out of Oklahoma.
Okay, I'm not defending the specific music choice in Twisters starring Glenn Powell and Daisy Edgar Jones and Brendan Pereira. I'm not defending the specific song choice. All I'm saying is the movie was good and you're wrong. And
it was
I'm
bad
right.
and you're wrong. But Josh is at work and he gets a bunch of 911 calls and he's doing his thing, being Josh, etc., etc. Don't drink that spoiled milk. That's gross, says Josh. And he gets this call from some number and nobody picks up. And, this happens occasionally at the 911 dispatch. So he's like, are you there? Press a button if you can hear me. The call disconnects. He tries to call back the number, and it's like, the number you have reached is no longer in service or whatever. So that's odd. And he gets a call from the number again. Again, nobody on the line. So he decides to contact police that are in the area and be like, can you do a welfare check? It's a landline, so he can tell where it's coming from. It's coming from a specific home address. He's like, can you do a welfare check at this address? We've been receiving calls, but the caller can't or won't speak, if there even is one. So cut to that one police officer and that other one police officer. We don't have fun names for them, so we'll just say those two.
But he's beautiful.
Yeah, it's the kind of hot guy, younger cop, and the red-haired other cop. You know what? ACAB includes the sort of hot guy cop, to be clear.
me fucking holding back tears as I point a gun during the anti-cop revolution. ACAB includes the kind of hot younger cop from 911. And then he appreciates the hesitation.
Right.
No, there's an important piece of context in this, which I was hoping would tie into the broader Murphyverse, because apparently the call was coming from inside the murder house. It was coming from inside the American Horror Story murder house.
I was also thinking of American Horror Story because, the cops or somebody says oh, that address? You mean the murder house? And they go to the house to investigate it. It's clearly this old abandoned house, which is kind of fun.
Not the same house. Not the same house from Murder House, unfortunately.
No,
that
but
house is a lot nicer.
Right? It's this creepy old house that
Connie Britton should have been there.
Yes.
With Dylan McDermott and Thaisa Farmiga and Jessica Lange, and Evan Peters, and they could have all been hanging out in the 911 verse.
Then we would have had to explain why Abby Clark is living this double life.
Well, okay, so doppelgangers, okay, for one, or a secret twin sister that we didn't know about, or and also this ties into who was the ghost who called 911? Boom. Boom, it was Thaisa Farmiga. in American Horror Story Murder House.
This was the other moment where I was like, you guys did this one already. There's, they're implying that a ghost called 911, and I don't have that much patience for this, partly because this season did not do a Halloween episode, so it's like, you wasted your chance already, but also because it's whatever. We've already done this. It does not turn, at least in this one, we do get proof that it is not, in fact, a ghost calling 911, because...
Okay. But it's so stupid, and it's so like crazy that this even made it to air because of how like axed this should have been like in the writing room. Like if I had gotten this script, I would have tossed it out and said, try again, make something with like a little more like intrigue in it, because they start strong with a strong premise. You have this like urban gothic sort of thing going on about this like weird dilapidated kind of upscale 60s home in the middle of suburban Los Angeles.
And one very fun
it's
detail.
Got cobwebs.
One very fun detail of the murder house is that it has apparently been abandoned at Christmas time. So there's like a kitschy little like silver artificial tree and like stockings still hung up. That's fun. And yes, the cops get in and they see that there's like a JFK magazine on a table. So it's like, okay, this place was completely abandoned. It's like a time capsule.
In the 60s.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. And they don't even try. The most they try is by having the hot Asian cop like be looking around and like see like a plastic bag. Do you ever feel like a plastic bag in the window and get spooked and fall and hit his head because he thinks it's like, it's haunted, right? Because I guess he's very superstitious or something. And then we cut to commercial through the mirror of my mind. And by the time we come back, Chimney and Hen are coming back and the other cop is just patching him up because that's all the tension in the scene. Well, and there's no ghost.
Okay, so to play devil's advocate for a moment, to play, what's this writer's name? Nicole's advocate for a moment, I will say, I think the reason this isn't like a real call is because this is just to introduce the house so that this will become like a thing for Chimney to want to get this house. I'm not saying that that excuses it like not being entertaining, but I don't think they were trying to do like a really fun call here, but they should have, right? Like, why not?
They should have.
Yeah. So the cop, I was going to say I would not trust this cop like on a trigger happy level, because if he's like, jumping so hard that he like fell down and hit his head because he saw a wrinkly like plastic bag drifting through the wind wanting to start again, I feel like I would not trust him. They should have had him like pull out his gun and like shoot the window where he saw the plastic bag coming from. But no, he just hits his head. No, it's true. Yeah, Hen and Chimney come to like attend to his little head injury, and the guy's embarrassed. Hen mentions that like she heard there were some teens who tried to party here recently at the murder house, but then they all, ran out the front door screaming like it's Scooby-Doo. So everybody's...
That never comes back, by the way.
No.
You think that's seeds for like an intruder or a squatter in the home, but it's not.
But rumors are flying about the house is the point. Like, it's a spooky old house.
Yeah, so Chim, he's like scoping out the house and he gets like contacted by Josh, who's like, bro, I am so at the end of my rope. I am burning the candle at both ends and I keep getting calls from this fucking house. Can you please just shut the house up? And Chim's like, I'm on it. I got it. Don't worry, babe. I got you. And he finds a rotary phone, a landline rotary phone, and he sees the wire that goes into the phone line, I guess, or it is the phone line. Yeah. It's been chewed on by mice or whatever. And so he tapes it up, and that's the end. and the scene just ends.
Yep, no more
he tapes up a fucking mice chewed landline phone, and that's the end of your murder house.
Are you not entertained?
Bro, I literally wrote in my notes, like, that's just how it ends? What the fuck?
On to the next
that's when
scene.
I texted you, like, what am I watching? Bro.
On to the well, again, I feel like having watched the whole episode, it's like it was just to set up this house and Chimney having a relationship to this house. But yes, that does not excuse it not being entertaining. On to the next scene. Captain Nash is in the firehouse and he is listening to a voicemail from Wendell. who is clearly intoxicated on the phone. And so that's obviously very disquieting to Bobby. And not only is he like slurring his words and sounding very high or drunk, but he also, the content of what he's saying is like, is alarming. It sounds like he's giving up on life. He's saying like, I thought I could do it, but I'm so tired or something, or like I can't do it. And then the voicemail just ends. And so Bobby tries calling him back, and he gets sent to voicemail. So that is alarming, but we don't really dwell on it. We just go right to like Hetty over here, Hen and Eddie, talking about parenting, and nobody really checks in with Bobby.
A couple of things about this. So first of all, this is definitely the moment in the episode where everyone in the audience goes, okay, so that was Wendell's grave. Or the site of his death.
If they even remember at this point the grave thing happening, which I don't think I did.
Right. If they do, that's when you go, okay, so it was Wendell's. And we know where the story's going. Okay. But then we cut to Eddie basically counseling Hen about Denny, and you have more of that fuck-ass music playing, and it's another really weird tone shift with the score. It's like you go from this like noir thing to this like Lifetime drama about parenting, not to disparage Lifetime. I'm just saying, you works on Lifetime movies. That I'm being literal. Like it's crazy to me that like they're basically forcing you to like pretend to be invested in what's going on screen, and I'm not. I'm getting like I don't know if it's the indigo gin I've been drinking, but I'm getting irritated by that. I'm getting agitated by the emotional manipulation of the scoring of this show.
Wow.
And it's so egregious in this scene because like Hen's basically like, I don't know about Denny like wanting to know about Eva, and Eddie's like, bro, so like the thing about that is, and it's like this music is playing in the background, and I'm just sitting there. I feel like I'm being like assaulted by like the half-ass scene and the half-ass score and the half-ass editing. And I'm thinking to myself, why did I even like this show in the first place?
Well, if anything, we could say it's telling that they choose to use such cloying music for scenes like this and the Denny one earlier, that maybe they're aware, or someone, the editor is aware of how kind of slow and uninteresting these scenes are, and they're just like desperately trying.
Insecure.
Yeah, it's an insecurity of trying to manipulate. If they're trying to tell you how to feel, there's probably a reason for that they know they can't stand by what is on the screen. So
right.
Yeah.
And so then they Bobby comes over and is like, etc., and they start rhapsodizing about the Santa Ana winds again. And
Chimney comes up because none of them can sleep, except they mention Buck is fast asleep in the world's emptiest dorm room. Good for Buck. Good for Buck. He's like in his PJs, his matching set. He's got his teddy bear. He's got his sleep mask on. He's probably having the best sleep of his life. I would also like to be sleeping through this scene. Because nothing's happening, right? And they keep talking about the winds, and I guess there's only so many cinematic ways to like depict the winds. It's not like the birds or whatever, where you can have like this like flock of like ominous like murderous birds. That is one thing about wind, is it is by nature invisible.
Right. And so they have to keep telling us about the winds, and it's like you're not actually doing like any of the work to like show us not only the winds but the consequence of the winds, or to make that connection. You're just telling us, oh, it's the goddamn winds. What am I supposed to do about that?
It's also like, I know I just said wind is invisible, but like we don't even get like a fun scene of like our characters outside in the wind, or like anyone really being affected by the physical wind. Or like I was reading about,
like you'd had like a Hitchcockian, like, like a shot of the winds blowing in, and then the drama happens,
Yeah, or
and
something.
Like it starts subtle at first, but it just builds.
I was reading about the Santa Anas, and I guess there are a couple of reasons that people attribute like physical and mental symptoms to the winds. One of them is, some people say that there's like a level of static electricity that it like stimulates in the air, which I think is maybe what Hen is alluding to when she says later in the episode, she's like, it's the ions. I don't know. I just read that static electricity is a thing. But then also there's like a type of fungus that can blow in with the winds that can actually give people like a virus, basically, or an infection. and can be symptomatic in people and cause like fever and stuff like that. So it's like a real thing. But we don't like have any calls related to any of that stuff. So yeah, it feels like a little underutilized. Anyway, Chimney comes in and he's like, I'm reading about this murder house, but it's interesting because, well, it's not interesting to us, but, you know, to him. And this is interesting to me as just like a knowledge enjoyer. He's like, so people say that there was this triple homicide in the house, but there's actually not really a source for that. Like all I could find were these like podcasts. There's not really anything actually on record. Which, I don't know, in real life, I'm interested in stuff like that, like when everybody believes a common myth, but it turns out there's not actually a real foundation to that. Anyway, this boring-ass conversation is interrupted by somebody driving their car into the firehouse. So they're like, I guess we better go deal with that. And they do. And there's a naked lady in the car, and she's sleepwalking.
There's a naked lady. She is sleepwalking so hard. She gets out and she just shows her tits and her kitty cat to everyone.
This episode was so boring that the writer was like, let me just throw a naked lady in there. It's like the oldest trick in the book.
Buck wakes right up. When a naked woman appears.
Up to come ogle
that
this poor naked
dog.
sleepwalking lady. Like, yeah, Oliver Stark is doing like the most over-the-top performance of like, whoa, I don't want to intrude on this naked woman. Like, I feel like in real life, I mean, maybe I get that like not all firefighters are like trained medical professionals. I'm sure some of them would be like not great in this situation, but you would think that the 118 would be like professional enough to not be all like, whoa, like tugging on their collar. Like there's a naked lady in the, like, you know, you're medical professionals, get over it. But this lady's naked.
You're at work.
This lady has sleepwalked into a car to drive to the fire station, and she is naked and she's asleep. And they're like, well, she gets out of the car fully naked, and they're like, well, what should we do? Like, should we wake her up? Somebody says, like, isn't it dangerous to wake a sleepwalker? I think that's just like folklore. I don't think that's real.
That's folklore. That's a myth. I mean, if anything, you know, you'd be doing a service to the person who's sleepwalking by waking them up before they do something dangerous like this. Because there have been plenty of reports of things like this happening.
Yes.
They're not going to die if you wake them up while they're sleepwalking, unless, of course, they're already holding the knife to their throat or something, and then they fall on it. But like that, it's different, right? And so they put a blanket around her because obviously, and she wakes up and she starts screaming. She's disoriented or whatever. They're like, you're in the firehouse. Calm down, hysterical woman. And they sit her down, and her name's Lizzie. And she's like, man, I've sleepwalked before, but never like this. And they're like, well, you know, it's one thing to walk around your house, but it's another to drive your car to a firehouse and park and be
she goes,
naked.
But that's
and
the
she's
thing,
like,
officer. I don't have a car. You all go,
she stole a car. And
it's just supposed to be like funny. But I like when there's a hokey revelation like that in writing. It reminds me of the end of Friday the 13th of, but miss, we didn't find any boy. It's like, okay.
Then he's still there. The car is still there in the room.
The car is still there in the room.
And then it's like Christine, and it's a murderous car.
Ooh. See, you know, literally, you gotta just put us. I'm not gonna be hubristic and say that we would definitely be better at writing 911, but I do think if you just put us in the room and let us just bounce some wacky ideas off of people, we could at least spice things up a little bit. The killer car.
Get like the creativity back up and running. And so then we cut from that. I guess Athena showed up and arrested her naked ass for stealing a car.
Presumably, yeah. That would have been a good like little follow-up if Athena came in and cuffed the naked sleepwalker. Does this car belong to you? No.
Right.
Let's go to the station.
And so then they're just chilling on the roof.
Yes, the 118 are now chilling on the roof, and they're having their hot chockey because they still can't sleep, and I guess they haven't gotten any more calls. I guess they had Athena come in and cart off the sleepwalker and get the car towed because they are now on the roof talking about the murder house.
And we get more wheel spinning.
Yes.
You know, they're talking about the murder house. They're talking about oat milk. Bobby made the hot chockey with oat milk. And then
he's
eventually
woke and gay.
And then eventually, you know, the wheel spinning, it gets old, and everyone knows that it gets old. And so Bobby stands, and he goes to the edge, and everyone's like, Bobby, don't kill yourself.
Don't
You have so much to live for. No, they don't
You're
say
so
that.
sexy.
No, he sniffs the air. He's like, wow, that new cocaine shipment is coming in hot. No,
No.
the mafia is so active. No, he doesn't say that. What he says
Bobby
is,
sniffs
do you
the
smell
air.
that? Do you smell that? And Buck's like, fire. And I guess they can smell fire from the Hollywood Hills.
They're
because
such good firefighters.
Scent hounds.
I thought this was kind of hokey. Like, they're such good firefighters. They can smell a wildfire on the air.
You thought it was kind of hokey?
Well,
you thought it
okay.
was kind of hokey?
It's this
Bro.
show we're talking about. Like, I'm used to
It's true.
a level of hokiness. And
It's
then,
hokey for this show, which
yes.
is saying something.
Or it's just
Yeah.
like, in the abstract, I think it's such a funny idea that you would sort of imply that, like, oh, the better a firefighter is, the better his nose is at sniffing out fires.
This is what Hen meant when she said, you know, when Bobby said he was hiring you to Buck, I told him he should have just gotten a Dalmatian, because a Dalmatian would have smelled the fuck out of that fire before
Right.
Bobby even.
Maybe
and he
there's
would have
a
been
part.
like, woof,
maybe when
woof.
you go to the LAFD Fire Academy, there's like a part of the test process that's just like, you know, they put a blindfold on you and they like burn different types of like wood and materials in front of you, and they're like, "What type of house fire is this?"
Can you fucking smell? You fucking idiot.
If you have like a bad sense of smell, you will get rejected from the fire academy. And, you know, they have their own archaic
And
fire
burned alive on the
bylaws
pyre.
that
Right.
make that not discrimination.
They even have a ritual where they put you in like a man made of wicker and they burn you alive with the bees. And so
Only if you
they
don't
drive
have a
out to the
functioning sense of
Hollywood
smell
Hills.
do they do that to you.
Of course. They drive out to the Hollywood Hills. And they show up from that same patch of nothing that we saw in the opening. And I was tickled by how low budget the show has become. Like this ailing TV show that the fire they're responding to is extremely controlled and contained.
It's
with
just a tiny little
marginal
patch of
crowd
fire.
and no risk of personal injury.
So
it honestly
so-
didn't even need a firehouse to respond to it.
Okay. No,
It's-
you're right.
it's
You're
that
right.
controlled.
It low-key didn't. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. To quote Casey McQuiston, the thing is, here's the thing. There is a reason for this. Like, if I remember correctly, this whole storyline with the rehab center and the fire and Wendell, like, this is arson, basically, we will discover. So I think it makes sense that it is just a tiny patch, and also it does also make it feel really dinky and low budget. It's kind of confusing as the viewer. You're like, yeah, why did they call this like city fire department all the way out here? I get that it's California, so like presumably there's a risk of the fire spreading, but it doesn't appear to have spread. It's like so contained that, yeah, it is
So
a little,
contained.
and especially because you don't yet know that this is like an intentional act of arson. You do, yeah, like once you hear like somebody set a fire to dispose of a body, you're like, well, that makes more sense. But just seeing it, yeah, it is a little distracting.
The scent of the fire reaches the 118 at home. And yet
Yeah,
it
yeah.
basically amounts to like
that's a
a
good point.
bonfire. Like that's crazy.
A big bonfire,
That's crazy
yeah.
to me. You know, like I'm shocked, honestly. And so they respond. Hen looks really hot with that hatchet that she's carrying, and you do some wheel spinning of like putting out a fire. Which
I'll say
normally
it. I think Eddie looks really cute in these wildfire clothes.
Hello. And usually I'm really appreciative of like when the firefighters on the show are putting out a fire, but like I can't be arsed this time. And there's this couple, right? There's this couple who they're like,
There's kind of a group of bystanders watching.
is this fire gonna spread? Because like we live around here. And it's like, damn, bitch, you live in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah,
That's
like
crazy.
what even is this place? That's also a little confusing. Like we'll find out that there's a rehab center nearby, but even like seeing this group of bystanders, yeah, it appears to be just the middle of nowhere, and yet there's like a group of civilians watching. It is just, the whole situation is weird. So yeah, the couple
Like,
is
are you
like,
all hikers? on like
This-
the least scenic hike in history.
Yeah. This, and like you're all in your like work clothes. Yeah. This sort of, I don't know, affluent, good looking couple walk up and are asking Bobby all these questions. This is because we are supposed to be suspicious of them. Then Eddie is poking around in the fire and he discovers something and he calls Bobby over. So he stops talking to the couple and he's like, hey, Bobby, we got a victim. I found a guy in here, a no longer living guy. So Bobby's like, oh,
burnt
no,
to a crisp.
Yes,
he
this
looks
guy
delicious.
Okay. The guy has been thoroughly flambéed, and conveniently he has this like garish orange watch on. And Bobby, and the watch is still intact and the wrist is still intact, et cetera, and it's poking right out for Bobby to see. Bobby has a really ham-fisted, like low saturation flashback to Wendell in slow motion in his house with that exact same watch on his. Now that I'm describing it, I'm like, yeah, this is total hack garbage.
It sucks so much.
And I noticed.
Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you noticed Wendell's garish orange watch, or were you distracted by the fact that we didn't know who this man was and why he was in Bobby's house?
Well, like, for me, yes and yes. Like, I was distracted by it, and also partly because I have watched this before and I was remembering the watch reveal. I did notice in that scene where we met Wendell that there was this sort of awkward cinematography to include his big ugly watch in the shot. So, yeah, but then it's like, I get why they did the hokey flashback also, because, yeah, why would the viewer remember Wendell's watch? And still, it feels really stupid to cut not only to a flashback, but yeah, they've like slowed down and desaturated the footage, so it's all the more corny. Whatever. Bobby takes a knee and he's like, oh no. He starts doing that, I'm sorry, really funny acting that Peter Krause does when he has to be devastated. Where he's like sad, but he kind of looks like he's just on the verge of laughing. And he's like, I need a second. Nice. I need a second. Bro. Eddie. And Eddie, I'm sorry, Eddie is being such a girl failure in this scene because Bobby is like, I need a minute. And Eddie's like, what? And Bobby's like, I said I need a minute. And then without giving him a minute, like 2 seconds later, Eddie is like, what is it? Did you know him? And it's like, bro, he said, give me a minute. Give the guy a minute.
If there's one thing Eddie's going to do, it's ruin someone's life. And I think this is very in character for him.
I think it's kind of fun of him, like, to be so tone deaf in this scene and just be standing there looking cute in his little outfit.
Next to Bobby's knee is a hypodermic needle. And so
yes,
it's like,
oh my God,
so
they
Wendell
also
was
show
shooting
this
up.
they also show this really ham-fisted shot of like, Wendell is here. It's his watch. It's Wendell. And there's a very obvious needle next to him to show us 100% he was using when he died. Which, again, to be fair, we will find out this was a setup. So it's like, it kind of makes sense in hindsight. And still, that doesn't really make it, like, not a stupid, corny viewing experience.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't make it good TV in hindsight. If anything, it just, like, makes it all the stupider that they chose to depict it in this way, like this half-assed, like, corny, ham-fisted way. Like, you could have, like, if you knew that you were working towards an end, even if you were writing backwards and, like, certain things didn't make sense in the moment, you could do something with that, but instead you chose to do nothing, right?
Or, like, I guess I think a good mystery where, like, we can go back and see the clues kind of works in the moment, and then when you revisit it in retrospect, you're like, oh, and that little detail. Like, it's not so much that it makes no sense in the moment and you're like, what is going on? And then later you find out there was an explanation. It's like, I feel like it should still work in the moment.
It would have been more elegant to have Athena very ham-fistedly say to Bobby, they found a needle at the site where he was burnt to a crisp like a slab of bacon.
That would have been a little less goofy.
Right, but instead we just see everything.
Or you know, you could even hear maybe Bobby's like following up with the LAPD and you could hear like, yeah, his blood tested positive for like he had this substance in his system. Like that would be a little less, yeah. A
little less stupid. Yeah, and so back at the station, it's like one of those like quiet drives home. Everyone's like spiraling. It's like, oh
awkward.
my God,
I didn't know
Wendell
Bobby
is
knew
dead.
That guy. Yeah, we all
And
were such good friends with Wendell. We all knew him and had such great adventures with him off screen prior to this moment.
right. And Bobby's like, I'm fine in that man way.
Yeah.
And we find out via Athena Grant, because Angela needs her check, that Wendell's son. Well, we find out by Bobby telling Athena, because we go right to Bobby's house. I guess he was like,
the Bob-Thena household.
I'm just gonna call it a shift. It turns out off screen he'd gotten in contact with Wendell's son, who didn't know anything about the supposed New Mexico visit. And so Athena surmises, well, he might have been going to rehab.
Yeah, because this is where we hear that there was a high-profile rehab facility very near to where Wendell's remains were discovered. So yeah, she's like, well, maybe he was kind of telling you that because he didn't want to admit that he was going to rehab. I'm so sorry. I need to pause to say Athena's outfit in this scene. She's wearing this adorable, like, boat neck, loose, kind of loosely knit white sweater over like a black tank top. She's got these kind of army green, baggy pants. It's just, it's so Athena and it's so cute. I love this outfit. I would wear this. But yes, Wendell is dead.
You are excused. You are excused for doing so, because in the next scene, I'm going to pause to mention Hen's outfit.
Okay.
So
okay, good.
We are
but
aligned.
Yes, that is not related. Wendell is dead, and yes, maybe he was in rehab, but Bobby seems really skeptical of this. He's like, yeah, but we were in AA together, and like, the sort of healthy AA working relationship we would have encouraged being open about a step like that. And I just can't really buy that he wouldn't have wanted to tell me about that, like, given that our relationship, like, the foundation was about us struggling with addiction, which, right. I kind of get it. It could go either way in real life. Like, maybe someone could be in that space and still feel ashamed, especially if they are your sponsor, like feeling like they should set a good example for you or whatever. Whatever. We don't know at this point, but Wendell's dead. Wendell died.
R.I.P. legend.
R.I.P.
Rest
legend.
in power.
2022 to 2022 in terms of when we knew him. We could do like the timestamps on this episode, like 7 minutes to 22 minutes or whatever. He really lived
that's
a good long life.
That's a very conservative timestamp thing, because this episode is already shaping up to be long because we've been going on rambles. So
I meant the timestamps of the actual episode.
We go from that scene of Wendell. He's dead in a dirt nap, a junky little dirt nap in the middle of nowhere, greater Los Angeles County. To Hen at home. Denny's like putting his little robotics thing together because it's not his birthday anymore, but he's still jazzed about his gifts because he's a Milford man and he's neither seen nor heard. She comes over with a box and she's like, I dug this out of the attic. Eva put this together for you before you were born or after you were born or whatever. And it's got a bunch of pictures in it, but not pictures of her. I don't have a lot of pictures of her. And Denny's like, wow, cool, Mom. That's crazy. And then he kind of he looks at it for a sec and then he fucks off.
Well, he's like, do you mind if I go look at these in my room? And Hen seems like a little hurt. She's like, really? Like, you don't want to look at them with me? And Denny's like, no, bye.
Yeah.
So,
bye.
Fair enough. Oh, and Hen.
But I did want to call to attention Hen's jacket. Hen's jacket really in this episode is fabulous. It's like this orange sort of, what would you call this? It's almost like a
marbled,
an
kind
impressionist
of a swirl.
painting.
Yes,
kinda.
It's very it's like if you had a bunch of paint and sort of swirled and marbled it together. That's kind of the look. I do appreciate the consistency in Hen's wardrobe. It's like very clearly early on they decided to go for like this sort of loud streetwear that she wears, but like very intentional, and I think it's cool that they always go back to that. But there is a little deliberate thing here where Hen, one of the things she takes out of the box is like a manila envelope, and she kind of takes that one and tucks it under her arm, so we get some emphasis on that one. It'll matter later, theoretically. Back at Dispatch, Theoretically, back at
Mhm.
Dispatch, Josh is more tired and more drinking coffee than ever.
It's
He's
so
having
hard to be Josh.
insomnia. His life is so hard.
Oh.
It's, it's almost enough to drive a man mad. I wonder what Josh could be capable of if he ever really
All it
reached
takes is
his
one
breaking
bad
point.
day.
All it takes is one bad day.
Wow.
If you want to know more about that, maybe you should subscribe to our Patreon, where we recently came up with some really creative ideas for a potential season 10, including maybe something that happens to Josh once he's snapped. So anyway,
I appreciate that Josh dies in both of our seasons.
Spoilers. Josh is catching up with Maddie, who's telling him all about that Chimney is now obsessed with the murder house, and he can't stop talking about it and showing her building permits from 1942. Okay.
Turns out they added a second bathroom in the 40s.
Riveting. We get a little more info of, like, I guess after the previous episode, they, with their trouble figuring out like a sleeping equation with G, they decided to have Chimney and Maddie take the living room as their bedroom, and G sleeps in their old bedroom, but that messes with their sleep because now Maddie says, like, oh, it's hard to get sleep when you're like surrounded by tomorrow's chores, because they're just in the living room / right by the kitchen. Josh is like, but G is sleeping really well in her new room apparently. So Josh is like, well, I'm glad at least one of us is sleeping peacefully in this wind. And once again, Maddie and Linda look at each other like, oh, I know something you don't. So that's a little weird.
Yeah. And then we go to said living room where Chimney is up all night researching more of stuff about the murder house. And he's on the phone with Hen.
We see the
just
sun.
like,
does anyone remember One Direction?
Well, yes. Yeah.
So Chimney's on the phone with Hen, and they can't sleep.
He's info dumping.
They're up all night, so they decide to patch in Buck and get him and make this a little conference call. Buck appears to be organizing his spice rack. That's like the business they've set up for him in this scene, so that's kind of fun.
Wheel spinning.
Well,
and Buck is like, I have a secret that I'm going to tell you guys, but first let me patch my husband in. So he calls Eddie,
let me get Eddie
who can't
on the call.
Hear you because he's gaming.
Yeah, Eddie is literally gaming. Eddie is up late gaming. What a hypocrite to tell Christopher not to stay up late gaming when here he is.
I'm saying, like, bro, like, you are setting a bad example for your son. And so Eddie's up late gaming, and he joins the call, which is now a four-way call. And they're all like catching up on like, oh, the murder house, whatever. Buck has news. And turns out Cameron and Connor conceived. Who cares?
Literally, who cares? Like, oh, great. Now we need to hear more about how Buck's sperm got implanted into Cameron.
This is like a 4-minute scene and nothing happens. It is the most literal definition of wheel spinning. If dictionaries still had pictures in them, under the definition of the idiom wheel spinning, it would be a picture of this scene, like a screenshot. Bro.
Yeah. Technically, I mean, the idea that Connor and Cameron have gotten pregnant is like a development, but it's like we already kind of knew that was going to happen, presumably. So like whatever. And we get just like more of Chimney being into the murder house, but like we've gotten that in like 3 other scenes already. Eddie is gaming and Hen is like worried about Denny. So, okay, that's the
And it's
scene.
all some bullshit. And so Hen, she's like, wait, hold on. I know how to make this party even better. And she calls Bobby.
Let's get our recently
boss.
bereaved friend Bobby Nash. I did think it was kind of silly that she would even think, because they say like, oh, he's probably awake after the day he's had of discovering his sponsor burned alive in the field. And it's like, yes, he may well be awake. I don't know if it's really the vibe to like ask him to join your like fun conference call where you're talking about Buck's jizz. Like, I don't know, maybe leave the poor man alone.
Taking out the knowledge of like the next episode's like twist or whatever, like think about the implication of what Bobby thinks happened here. Either A, accidental self-immolation, or B, purposeful self-immolation of a person he supposedly cares about very deeply.
And
it
Hen's
has
like, you know
known
who
for
will
many
really want to
years.
hear about whether Buck's sperm donation storyline has been successful? Bobby. Bobby, who's probably
Insane.
awake, like trying desperately not to relapse right now. Let's call Bobby. Yeah,
You
that's a good idea.
goddamn maniacs. And so Bobby doesn't answer because, of course.
Well, because he's at the rehab center trying to get some intel.
Yes, the high-profile rehab facility. He is getting nothing from this bereaved woman who is forced to work
I think
the
you
front
mean
desk.
beleaguered. I said bereaved, so it probably stuck in your head, but that's not what bereaved means.
That's probably what happened. It's the goddamn indigo gin. Ugh, this Joni Mitchell is not lasting now that the ice has melted and the Diet Coke is warm.
Apparently, Ryan has a drink he makes that he calls a Joni Mitchell that is indigo gin and Diet Coke.
I think it fits.
No, it sounds nice. I would drink it.
You know, the only thing that would make it more Joni is if I smoked a J and donned blackface. But anyways,
okay.
So he's at the rehab facility. He's getting nothing from this beleaguered woman who's forced to work the front desk. Is that better, Jane? Is that better?
Well, just bereaved implies
good.
that she too has recently lost someone.
Maybe she has. We don't know.
We don't know.
Maybe
it's true.
she has.
Could be bereaved. And maybe that's like, maybe this actress, kind of like Emma Stone in that one SNL sketch you like to bring up where she is building a character in a gay porn movie. Maybe this actress who played this little bit part was like, you know, coming up with a whole backstory for her character. And she's like, she actually recently, you know, lost her mother. And that's why she's acting so rude and dismissive in this scene, is she has her own stuff going on. Anyway, this lady is not having it. She's like, all of our patient information is confidential. I'm not telling you shit. Our patients appreciate our confidentiality. And Bobby is very savage with this. He's like, yeah, well, my friend Wendell can't appreciate that because he's fucking dead. He fucking died. And the lady's like, okay, I'm calling security. She does. While security's getting there, Bobby like goes over to the wall and sees like a little like newspaper cutout that has been framed on the wall about the couple that owns the rehab. And another tasteful flashback to a scene we already saw in this episode. It is the couple who were inquiring about the fire. So obviously he's starting to think this swanky couple who owns this place, maybe they had something to do with it. You know, why were they so interested in the fire and what caused it and whatever? This like security guy starts trying to usher him out of the building. So he's like, okay, I'm leaving. Okay, all right.
And then we cut back to the four-way phone call. Because the episode desperately needs to pad its runtime, which has been 90% of this episode anyways. It's just padding. And Buck, like, I just wrote in my notes, I don't care how Buck is feeling about being a sperm donor. But it's basically just checking in, and then he hangs up, and then I guess they all go to bed. Good night. And then the next day, Maddie and Linda are queening out, but stupid Josh keeps getting in the way because he's so tired. But apparently the winds are dying down, and he's had the longest 3 days of his life at this job mood. And he's like, I don't know if I'm built for this. I'm going to go to Sue Blevins and quit and give up my pension or whatever. And then Maddie and Linda, they shoot up and they're like, Josh, no. Okay, so
it was just a prank, bro. It was just a
literally,
prank,
it was just a prank, bro. It was literally just a prank, bro. It wasn't just a prank. It was a fucking conspiracy. They had like 5 people in on it.
Yes, like the whole dispatch. So basically, and I can't remember if we've gotten this in an episode before or if it's only mentioned for the first time here, but basically Josh apparently has strategically scheduled himself around really hectic days like full moons, Santa Ana winds, whatever. And so Linda and Maddie, fed up with this, decided to finally teach him a lesson by, recruiting all of their coworkers to torment Josh, to call out, make him cover their shifts, to kind of finally give him a taste of what it's like to work on these difficult days. Josh, once they reveal this to him, Josh is like, I already knew that. In fact, I was just putting on a little performance for you girls to get you to confess. It's so funny. It's like the girls were psychologically torturing Josh, so he decided to psychologically torture them right back. Like, I do kind of love the levels of like gaslight, gatekeep, and girl boss that are happening in this dispatch right now.
I do
Josh,
love that. Yeah,
it's true. And Josh, to his
Mm-hmm.
credit, is like, okay, I work every Christmas and every Thanksgiving, so like, you know, you can be pissed at me for not working the full moons, but like, come on, I do my job. whatever.
And the thing is, like, the thing that like made him realize what happened was that George, a man we've never heard of,
right.
George, apparently he called out and needed Josh to cover him because he had appendicitis. But 3 years prior, because Josh does the schedule because he's the underboss, he had approved George for an appendectomy.
Yeah,
And
Josh
time
is
off
like, I
related to
knew
an
because
appendectomy.
I'm the one who approved his time off the last time he had his appendectomy. So yes, Josh.
Administered by the one and only gay George O'Malley. Hello, 007.
Maybe if he was still alive at this point.
We can dream. A boy can dream. Okay, this is my crossover fanfic.
So Josh is like,
Grace.
I guess you can find out if I'm mad or not at the next full moon. That's a very ominous thing for him to say. I don't really know what he means by that. But back in the Henren household.
Doubles. Ooh.
Back in the Henren household, and I realized we didn't mention one detail from the call, which is at the very end of the conference call, we see that Denny was actually listening in on his mom's conversation where she mentioned...
We do?
Yeah, did you miss this? You got to watch the episodes when you watch them, Ryan.
I did watch the episode, but it was blink and you miss it. I swear to God.
Not really. It was like a good few long seconds where they like focus on Denny's pan over to Denny's face. So he was listening in while Hen was kind of... This is what
happens when you make a glazing over eyes episode.
Yes.
People get bored and they stop watching.
So he heard Hen talking about feeling insecure about, you know, her relationship with Denny and whether he was gonna, you know, go want to be a part of some other parent's life, right? So Denny has kind of sat his parents down now, and he, again, in a not super realistic way, like an unrealistically mature way for a child, although maybe Denny is just this mature, he's like, I'm sorry I asked you guys about my biological mother. And of course, Hen and Karen are like, you don't need to be sorry. Like, you can ask us whatever you want. Like, you didn't do anything wrong. And Denny's like, I kind of felt like maybe I did because of the way you reacted. Like, you know, seeming so perturbed by it. And then, you know, implicitly we can assume hearing Hen talk about it on the phone. And Karen is like, we always want you to know that you can ask us whatever you want. We'll always tell you. And Denny's like, well, again, this mature as fuck Denny is like, there's something else I want you to know. I'm not looking for another mom. I already have you guys, and I know how great you are. It's like, okay, he's what, like 10? Like, this is real big of Denny to do. She's
like, Mom and Mama, you're awesome. And Karen's like, Denny, you're awesome too. And then Hen's like, I think we're all pretty awesome.
It's like, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
It's like,
they love each other. That's great. Back at the murder house.
A thing that was never called into question. A thing that, you know, like the last Henren episode, was never called into question.
So
but
back
it's
at
fine.
the murder house, Chatty over here, Chimney and Maddie, they walk into the house and Chimney's like, I'm showing you this creepy old house because it really speaks to me. And Maddie's like, yeah, it's speaking to me too. It's saying, run far away. We see like all the kitschy, like all the Christmas decorations that are still up that have survived all this time. And Chimney tells Maddie a little story.
We don't just see that. Look at the walls. Are you scrubbing the episode right now? Look at the walls. When Chimney said the house is talking to me, I wrote in my notes, Chimney, that's not the house. That's the mold. There is black mold in this house, and it is speaking to you and infecting your brain. Run.
I guess I assumed it was just dirt, but yeah, you're probably right. So Chimney tells Maddie a little story. He's like, yeah, that story about the triple homicide turned out to not be true. What actually happened to the family who lived in this house is, you know, it was Christmas Eve or whatever. The dad was driving the 3 little girls home, and it was raining and it was slick, and a car like bumped them off the road and they all died in a car accident. And then the mom, who is at home wrapping presents, she moved out of the house the day after the funeral and she never looked back. But she couldn't bring herself to do anything, change the house, sell the house. So she just kind of left it exactly as it was until she died just a couple years ago. And Chimney says he found all this out from the current owner, the nephew of the woman who had owned the house, the mom. And he's like, you know, it's not on the market because this guy was worried about all these looky-loos like wanting to come and sensationalize and I don't know, bring like Zach Baggins ghost adventures or whatever to this house.
Literally.
So but I got the inside scoop. And so Maddie kind of comes around.
No, they should get Demi Lovato. They should get Demi in that fucking ghost
Demi
hunting show that they did.
Sing for the ghosts.
Yes.
Maddie kind of comes around, just like, oh, I see. Like, a family lived here. And she like sees the like height markers on the wall that people have written, like, when the kid grows up and you make the little mark on the wall. And
Black
she realizes
Black mold.
Okay.
The mold takes her and infects her into being down with this house.
That's what happens. But she's like, a family lived here. And Chimney says, yeah, a family should live here again. And so Maddie is convinced. Chimney's charm worked to sell her this fixer-upper of a house. Hopefully the market price will be very low because of the disrepair and the bad reputation of this house. So hopefully they get a bargain. Because that was the thing, is they did mention in the last episode that they, like, everything they were looking at was out of their budget. So hopefully they get a good deal on this one.
Right. And so we go from the black mold taking over their brains like the Borg to Denny, who has his bike. He's looking around. He's at this house. He's at a stranger's house. And he parks his bike, kicks up the little kickstand.
And he's got
looks around again to make sure his moms aren't there. He's got the manila
box
folder
of Denny biological parent stuff.
And it's like, where did he get that? So he knocks on the door or rings the doorbell or whatever the fuck, and an older man answers.
Denny goes up and says, "Hey, I'm Denny. I think you're my dad." And I don't know. I just feel like it doesn't, we can assume that this guy is at least the guy who Denny thinks is his dad.
Yeah, he like got the address from the manila folder.
Yeah.
And so we're going to get Denny dad drama.
Denny
that presumably
dad drama
will remain a recurring theme of the show, despite the fact that it wasn't mentioned at all in season 7 or 8 or 9 to my memory.
I don't remember if it ever comes back.
But so then we cut to this fuck ass song.
There's
this
Brandi
fuck ass
Carlile
acoustic
and
guitar
somebody
song.
else.
It's like, okay, so Bobby, he's sad over Wendell's death, and he put up a little cross where he died in that burnt patch of nothing, and then
Eddie,
he has this closing monologue.
Eddie's sleeping, don't wake him up.
Eddie's sleeping, don't wake him up. He's so tired.
He's so tired.
And then Buck is so tired.
Too.
He's
Everybody,
eepy. He's
quiet.
eepy, guys.
There's
And
like this
then
nasty
Madney
shot where we
is
see that right
tired.
next to Buck sleeping is this like LAFD onesie that Buck has bought for his friend's baby
Bro.
that doesn't even exist yet.
Bro, ugh.
Whatever.
I don't even know if it's gonna fit. It could be a plus size baby, and then it's the wrong size. And aren't you embarrassed, Buck?
Well, that wasn't really
it's
my thought,
presumptuous.
but I was thinking, wow, does this mean Buck thinks that life begins at conception?
Low key, this is a pro-life episode.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Think about that.
Madney, he's also sleeping. Don't wake them up. They're young parents.
Yeah,
they're new
Madney.
parents. Don't wake them.
Maddie and Chimney are sleeping.
And Chimney has papers for like the lease for the house in his hands because he fell asleep while reading it over because he's so excited about the murder house. And then Henren is tie too. They're sleeping. Everyone's sleeping. I'll be sleeping soon.
It's the napping house up in here.
Everyone's napping. Everyone's eepy. Denny is with his dad. And Bobby is drinking coffee, and he's gonna kill the rich people. Okay,
yeah. Bobby
he's
is like
staking the fuck out of their house.
He is staking out the rich rehab couple's house. He's like taking pictures of them, and in his final monologue moments, he says something about like the reason the Santa Anas are notable is that it shows that. This one inescapable fact about this city, that at any moment, the whole place could burn. And, they thought that was so epic,
Yeah. Yeah, that was so, like, cool guys don't look at explosions core of them. Trying desperately to inject some sauce.
Well, yeah, it's funny you should say that because the last note I wrote was they're trying so hard to give this sauceless Bobby storyline some sauce. Yeah, I had the exact same thought, basically. I was just so, like, peeved at the fact that they had, again, like, just randomly, hastily wrote in like this intense rehab storyline that's completely half-baked at this point. Like, this is the first we're hearing about it. And then at the end of the episode, they're trying to be like, isn't that right? Get excited for this intense, dark storyline. It's like, I don't know, like, what this is. I didn't know Wendell. I don't know these people who run this rehab. Like, you're telling me all this for the first time. Yeah.
This episode, it broke my brain by how much it was asking me to care about things that I just don't. And I feel like a heartless, soulless bastard for saying that. Like, I would have loved like a 4-way phone call, like sitcom scene in a better episode that's like, it's more tonally consistent. It has like clear storylines that are set up and pay off in a compelling way, but it just doesn't. Watching this, I was like, who the hell cares? And that's a great selling point for this episode of the podcast. We're really selling our show to people by depicting it in this way.
Well, we can sell
I certainly
the catharsis of, if you watched this season and had a bad time, you can hear us also have a bad time. We probably all should be entitled to compensation for watching this season, but, short of that, at least you can commiserate with others.
I can't believe we talked for 2 hours about this episode.
We spent a lot of it not talking about this episode.
That's true. It was a springboard for discussion, just unrelated discussion. So maybe that's the ultimate thing about this episode, is that it's one of those like moments where it's like, man, I'd rather be doing anything else. So on that note, thank you guys for listening to this episode of the First Respodcast. If you liked our show and you want to tell us about it, leave us a comment and follow us on social media at First Respodcast, spelled how it sounds.
If
and
you
if you want to
disliked
support us further,
our show, stay quiet. Keep it to yourself.
Yeah. Shut up, you motherfucker. And if you want to support us further, you can subscribe to our Patreon, where this month it's looking like we'll finally be watching the emo Oliver Stark movie, Mind Gamers.
You guys,
2015.
I've been waiting for this moment since we started the Patreon. I really want to watch this movie.
Oh my God.
I'm excited. This will be a welcome reprieve from talking about 911. We get to talk about Oliver Stark's weird styling in that one movie. So that's exciting.
So excited. I'm so excited to gag every time I look at him. Like in a bad way, in like the nauseating way.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I'm excited to just go, ugh. And it's going to be so much fun. I'm so looking forward to it. I hope everyone else is too. Everyone's having a restful, relaxing time. Work doesn't suck. You're not like, being like gaslit en masse by your coworkers. You're not having your sponsor who blinked into existence being burnt to a crisp like poor Jackie on Yellow Jackets, and everyone's eating him. They're all eating him, and then they're gonna eat me. Oh my God.